Jupiter to Saturn, we'll deliver our freight on our starship, sailing through the interplanetary strait. With a hardy crew and a cargo of dreams, through the nebula's mist we'll forge our own schemes. In the vastness of space where no man has been, we'll navigate, chart the unexplored galactic highway. Heave home maze upon the starry sea, we're the spacemen sailing through infinity. With our voices loud and our spirits free, we'll voyage across the celestial sea. Voyage across the celestial sea.
In the abyss of the cosmos we set sail. Through crimson skies our ship prevails. Across the stars a celestial flight, metal warriors bound by might. Ooh, yeah. In this realm of shadows darkness unfurls, a symphony of chaos, where planets swirl and nebula of fury untamed, sailing through the void where nothing's the same. We ride through the cosmos, a metal storm, defying gravity, our spirits transform through supernovas and celestial clouds. Our stellar voyage forever in the skies.
Digging deep in the Martian soil, searching for that precious oil. With pickaxes and heavy hearts, we're the miners of the cosmic shore. On this barren land, we march as one, unearthing treasures under the sun. In the cratered plains where no one dreamt, we're the pioneers on this frontier we're sent. Oh, we mine on the red planet soil, drilling down, down, down for the treasures we toil. With grit and determination, we push ahead for Mars' hidden riches. We're truly bred. We're truly bred.
Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone's doing well. Camera's slightly off, and the light is off. Give me a second. All right. There we go. I love how I don't change anything and things change. I suppose that's Murphy doing his best. Hello, it's better. Better. How are we all doing today? So, today is very much a typical Monday. Streaming software glitched out when I started, so I have no combined chat on my screen. I have no idea how many people are watching me. My camera is off for some reason. Oop. Now it's chopped with the top of my head. It should be fine. Okay. And it's skew. Why is the screen skew? That is gonna bug me. Why? Fine. That's not a now problem. That's just now problem. We can pretend that it's straight. Yeah, I do apologize that there was 2 days with no streams, but, you know, streaming with migraine, not fun. Especially seeing as I'm staring directly into two lights. So very much not fun. Now I'm off center. That's great. There we go. That looks good, I think. We can adjust this. To there. But now it looks like my chair is skew, but it's not. It's just not perpendicular to this camera. This is great. I love this. Especially when I want to be working. The old eyebrows, the attack eyebrows, are on their way back. And screen's also skew. This is fantastic. But yes, how was everyone's weekend? I hope everybody's been having a fantastic weekend. Chillaxed, relaxed. All of the verbs, adverbs, and adjectives for a good weekend. Alrighty. Have we got everything? Looks like we got everything. Do we really? Yeah, looks good. Alright. Awesome. Going on a bit of a wander is always good. Yeah, it depends really, I suppose. A good old trek through the wilderness, or really annoying me. A second, just moving screens around. That's better. Teleprompter's still skew, but yeah, no migraine today, so that's any day without a migraine is a good day, I think. So, getting there. Okay. It's just a very weird way to write meter, I think. If that's meter. But it's awesome. 6 meter by 6 meter workshop is a hefty workshop. It's good. It's bigger than this room. I think this room's maybe a 4 by 4. 4 meters, not 4 feet. Thaldium? Well, not a problem. I do understand it's quite early in parts of the States. But thank you for popping past, and I hope you have a fantastic sleep. Yeah. Most of America would be quite early. Unfortunately, it's a very big time difference. For me, it is now 10 past 10 in the morning. Alrighty. Move that out the way. Let's see, does my computer explode? Because we're on that sort of morning. That is a hefty chunk, but hey, if it's worth it, it's worth it. Thank you, Thaldium, for the kind words. Very much appreciated. Good morning, Amtru. I hope you are doing well today. Let's move this over here. So we're going to do some re-T-Foss today. So we're still doing predominantly Regal Eagle stuff. Mainly because that was predominantly what I did in the beginning. that's definitely not what I wanted to paste. Awesome, amateur. Always having a day off is great. All night. Any break in work is good. As long as it's planned and not for health reasons. At some point, I probably need to go on a holiday. The only time I haven't recorded or worked for any extended period of time over the last, well, since the beginning of the channel is because of health reasons. Good morning, Samantha. I hope you're doing well. Well, Andy's a good writer as well, yes. I was lucky that I managed to snag that permission early on. Excuse me. Yeah. I do not see a vacation in my near future. Moving countries costs a lot of money. Legally, moving countries costs a lot of money. So, any spare money we have is going towards that. Basically, the moment I hit Portugal, I have to start building up a new house with cutlery and all of that stuff. Beds and curtains and, house stuff. Well, that adds up quickly. Alrighty. I think this might be my second favorite story. And we still got a thing. Right there. Why? Nice. Tennessee. I really do not know much about Tennessee. Other than whiskey. That's about it. Yeah. So if you look down here, there's codes. Those are all the different voices I do. This one only has all the male voices, because I've only got 3 female voices. Good morning, Monahan. I hope you're doing well, Anthony. So F2 would be the second female voice that I can do. M3 is a third male voice. That's not F2, that's F1 anyway. M1 is just my normal narration voice. quantum monsters for the win. Definitely on a Sunday. Especially on a Sunday. That's probably F2. F2. M2. Would be the gruff voice. Yeah, these descriptions was chosen by chat, by the way, not me. My descriptions are different, but I'm nothing but a crowd pleaser, so if people want to call it Snooty Brit, then we call it Snooty Brit. Good morning, Darth Squirrel. I hope you are doing well. Although, my descriptions don't really make sense to most people, because they only have to make sense to me. Good morning, Brian Morgan. I hope you're doing well. And Alaska. Awesome. Going into summer, which is just basically like my winter. Probably your summer is colder than my winter. Yes, we'll go with M3, 4. Actually, should go the other way. Yeah, I know what I'll do, chat. The gangster will get a Cockney accent. And that's what he'll get. And then we can give the prince the snooty voice. That makes sense to me. And Cockney works for a gangster, I think. Makes it funnier. Always makes it funnier. Cockney, well, my Cockney voice. Cockney. Makes everything funnier. To me. But the prince can be all snooty. Although I suppose we could have gone with the alternative, which is open mouth snooty. Or, what is that, the Spiffing Brit snooty? I think it's what it's called on the thing. Big ass mosquitoes. Yep, mosquitoes always fun. Right, F1. F1. M3, F1, M3, F1, M3, F1. M3, M3. F1. So I have a favor to ask of everyone in chat. I can't see how many of you there are, which I won't say causes me anxiety. I just keep looking to see how many people there are. So if there's a quiet spell, just have a nice good chat and chat so that I know that I'm not talking to myself. Because I can do that for free anywhere, really. So, it's a small favor, but it would be appreciated. Unfortunately, I've got too many screens open, so I can't see the YouTube and I can't see Twitch. So I have no idea. I do know that there's at least 3 people. Good morning, Coyote. I hope you're doing well. Alrighty. Also, a very productive and busy chat does tickle the algorithm where it needs to be tickled to do good things. What are we doing? Oh yes, M3. F1. M3. Let's change the F exclamation mark to F1. There is one problem with this jacket. When you get an itch, you have to take the whole jacket off to get to it. M3. F1. F1. For the algorithm, indeed. Gotta tickle that algorithm. It's been quite standoffish recently, so we need to win its favor back, chat. We do. We need to tickle it in all the right places. Gene, this is a re-TFOS, so I have done it before. It's one of the first ones I did. So we are updating them to modern standards, with proper voice acting, with scrolling text, the whole 9 yards. Well, 3.5 yards at least. So I'm systematically going through old content and updating, not upgrading, updating. Soft reboot. There we go. M3. F1. It is a fun story. That's why I said I think it's my second favorite. Because if Court was like this, I would watch Court TV non-stop. So I don't want any insignia. So I want to reduce the possibility of it being mistaken for a real uniform. I am getting a new one made. I actually went for measurements yesterday. It was awesome. Let me see if I can... So, let me go Photoshop. So the new one also doesn't have any insignia, which we can add later. It is a thing. I mean, I did put a Velcro patch for it, but just never got around to it. New. Clipboard. Create. So, this is the new uniform. Let me just... I went for my measurements yesterday, and the team, and yes, it is a team of tailors, are going to work their magic and make me one of these. And it will be a surprise when I finally get it. Now, obviously, there are things like the left and right don't look the same. This is AI generated, obviously. So it'll be the same lapelette on both sides. It'll be symmetrical left to right as well. So, I've paid the money. We've got the what are you, it's elves, no? Yes, elves. Gnomes are the ones that make the clothes or shoes. Is it gnomes? I forget my law relating to trades, but pretty sure that it was gnomes that helped tailors make stuff. But anyway. What I do like about this is it has a zip. instead of buttons. Because this one, the buttons pop off all the time. Anyways, so this is a work in progress. And there will be a very big surprise when we move on to that specific uniform. That'll be Season 2 aggro, not Season 1 aggro. New phase in the channel or something. AJ, I would imagine, personally, they would, at the very minimum, wear something to protect against depressurization. So a work suit that doubles as a pressurized suit. Because, I mean, it's all temperature controlled, so you'll neither ever be hot or cold. So you wouldn't need to wear a tank top or a big jacket. Alright. M3. F1. I don't think that's correct. I don't think hero specifically is a masculine term. I suppose heroine is the female term. Yeah, I'm not a writer, so I will not criticize. M3, not M1. Yeah, that's very true. Although I'd imagine the engine room where all the engineers are would be the first one to have air conditioning, because that's where all the engineers are. Whether the ship was designed that way or not. F1. M3. F1. Heroine, heroine, I suppose. F1. M3. F1. Yeah, no, that's true. It's very difficult to say. I mean, I'd imagine it would operate under the same principles as a submarine rather than a ship. A floaty ship, not a spaceship. Although, I suppose, submarines are quite sweaty boxes. M3. F1. M3. M1. Hot racking. That's where like 3 people share the same bed. Oh, not cot would be the more appropriate term. And 1 person from each shift. Is that correct? Just trying to remember exactly what hot racking is. 2. I suppose you got time off, time on. If everybody was on, 3 people would be a bit too much. F1. M3. F1. M3. M1. 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 F1. Nope, no. Who are we talking? The Grand Vizier. That's M2. F1. M1. M3. F1. M3. No, 4, 3. Good night, Thaldium. I hope you're doing well done. Hope you have a nice sleeps. Great dreams of whatever you want to dream about, really. Good morning, Lord Volpex. Hope you're doing well. F2. F2. F1. F2. I think that is also F2. Okay, M1. F2. Blah, 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 blah. M1. F1. M2. M1. F1. M1, F1, M1, F1. There's a pattern emerging, I think. Yeah, but she doesn't like to be recorded. I'm not about to force her. M1, M3, F1. M1. F1. No, M3. F1. M3. F1. F1. Awesome. Done. Oop. Done. Done. Teleprompter opened. Story pasted. Teleprompter is still skew. And I begin to explain how annoying that is when you're trying to read. But there are definitely first world problems in that one. Video recording over here. Video recording started. Audio recording open. Audio recording started. Streaming profile. So, for those of you new, there are a couple people that are new here. I stream with the green screen like this when I record a video because the video editing software is a lot better at removing the green screen. So, I'm going to record a video as per the way I would normally record it. So, this is why the green screen is a bit wonky. Let me just get comfortable. Let me center myself. Not that sort of center. Just center on screen. Okay. This is the first story of the day. We had some technical issues in the beginning that we had to work out, so now we're on to glasses. Don't forget the glasses. Alright, so I take the glasses off for two major reasons. One, it reflects the lights in front of me and my screen, so green screen struggles with that. And two, it opens up the face so that it's easier to read. So for those people that like the expressions on a face, it makes it easier to read the face. Alright, and number 3, once I start, I will be ignoring chat completely. Good or bad, and normally bad. But anyways. Yes, the expressions do make it better, but when you put it behind glasses, it distorts the eyes. So without glasses, it's a bit easier for the facial expressions. All right, and here we go. Greetings, ladies and metalgents, and welcome to this Re-T-Foss video, where I take old stories that I've done, update them to modern standards, and read it for your entertainment. This particular story is called The White Collar Bloody Knuckles, written by Legal Eagle. Angie sighed as she glanced through her emails. Another couple joked forwards from the other partners about where to buy women's clothes and how to apply makeup. They were always so childish. Let me just change this here. They were always so childish. Then again, it had been her choice to move to the planet far, far from her high-gravity home, Kearns. At 1.2 normal Earth gravity, everyone who lived there was a product of their environment. Shorter, stockier, more muscular, and according to her dating profile inbox, not sought after by the residents of Taratha. At a mere 5'5", she was actually fairly tall for a Kearns colonist, but she was dwarfed in height by most of the other partners of the firm, especially because they wore heels when she didn't. Especially because they wore heels while she didn't. No one from a high-gravity planet wore heels, not even their drag queens. So while many of the other partners scored big clients worth millions or billions of credits and had wonderful nights being chauffeured around with the elite of the hegemony society, Angie worked the smaller cases. Her track record was better than any of the other partners, but success only counted for so much amongst the shallow Tarathian upper class. Truthfully, Angie didn't mind all that much, because she believed that her hard work and perseverance would pay off sooner or later. Already she'd gotten a scholarship from a heavy industry college to a law school, graduated with honors, and was the youngest partner of the firm. The others could socialize and mingle all they wanted, because one day she'd be their boss. She smiled at the thought for a moment before noticing another new email that wasn't a joke. Possibly. Prince Hiram Octoro. Prince Hiram Octuro. Prince Hiram Octuro Junilo Constic Romano the Seventh. Prince Hiram Octuro Junilo Constic. Yeah, that says Constic. Prince Hiram Octuro Junilo Constrict. Prince Hiram Octuro Junilo Constic Romano the Eighth. Nope, that is 13. Nope, that is 16. Roman numerals, curse you. Prince Hiram Octoro Junilo Constic Romano the 16th wanted to speak with her about something in private. Wanted to speak with her about something private and requested a meeting. Angie quickly searched the name to see if someone in the office was pulling her leg. No picture, but the name came up in the local television. No picture, but the name came up in a local article. One of the visiting dignitaries with a fexic deliberation. Perhaps her time had come early. She quickly replied that she looked forward to this meeting and sent her secretary a notice to expect a potential client. Seeing as she had no idea when the prince might show up, she figured she'd simply work until she heard anything. Several hours later, she saw in the notification on her terminal that the prince had arrived. She needed to wrap this call up, but was having trouble with that as she held her face in her hands. Because you're a mob boss, Domiko. It doesn't matter if the cops can't prove it in court of law. They're still going to operate on the assumption that you're committing crimes. That's how it works. They think you're in charge and they're trying to bring you down. You try to keep from being caught. Why am I explaining this to you?
I just don't see why they're always searching my private yacht when I send my kids on a vacation and whatnot. It's harassment, I'm telling you.
Domiko, that's called customs. All ships have to go through it. If you want to know why they're extra careful when your ship is because if you want to know why they're extra careful when your ship If you want to know why they're extra careful when it's your ship, it's because they think you might be If you want to know why they're extra careful when it's your ship, it's because they think you might be using your kid's vacation as a cover for smuggling. Angie sighed. Domiko was currently her best client, a fact she hated.
Oh, now that's not a bad idea. Thanks for the tip.
No, don't do that. They're looking for it. Damn it, Domiko. How the hell have you avoided getting caught?
Because I got the best attorney in town. You know I'm always looking out for you, ever since you first got my legitimate business partner out of that hot water.
Angie shifted her hands and rubbed her eyes, now as she thought back on her first big case on Teretha. For the last time, Domiko, I had no idea that contractor was working for the mob, and stop saying legitimate all the time. It sounds suspicious.
Yeah, that was a great case too. All legitimate and whatnot. I appreciate the work as always. I don't know what I'd do without you.
He clearly ignored her advice on the word legitimate. Is that because you honestly can't imagine it, or because every time I try to quit, you threaten to burn down my apartment?
Oh, allegedly.
This isn't the courtroom, Domiko. I have to go now. I've got another client. Angie growled. Before she could end the call, though, he added,
I'll send you another case of them donuts you like. I've always got your back, kid.
She ended the call with a drawn-out groan. One time, she had mentioned that she really liked Terethian donuts, and that's all her clients bring her these days. Angie sighed then and got up before walking to her private washroom. She didn't wear makeup like the other partners, but she needed to look good for a prince. Her short amber hair was neat and tidy. Her black suit with the crimson tie was immaculate, and as she opened her mouth and inspected her teeth, she didn't see any food she'd missed. Even so,
She took a moment to smooth her hair for a moment and just shake out her limbs as she relaxed and got back into a proper mindset. Leaning forward against the countertop, she looked at her reflection. "You're fierce, you're strong, you're the best." With a nod, she then straightened up and walked into her office and pressed the button to signal her secretary to let the possible client in. Soon the door opened and a figure in a rather plain robe walked into the room. She was a little surprised that the prince would wear something so plain. She was a little surprised that the prince would wear something so plain until she noticed the black wand being pulled out of the robe's sleeve. She watched the figure quickly walk the perimeter of her office, waving the wand around. Compared to the other partners, her office was rather small, but with a wood paneling and a view of the Koski Park, she was more than happy with it. Once the figure had walked the room, it just nodded at Angie and then stepped out. Only then did the actual client step in. Angie wasn't normally one much for Xenos, but this one was easy on the eyes. He was tall and slim, wearing a white uniform covered in ribbons and fancy gold epaulets that fit a noble prince. The saber on his hip looked fancy as well. The saber on his hip looked fancy as well, but hardly anyone actually dueled these days. Hardly anyone in the hegemony, at least. His face was covered in a light gold fur with large triangular ears and a short snout. The rest of his body was covered in a uniform except for a bushy, striped black and gold tail. When his blue eyes focused on her, she finally spoke up. "Prince Renuma, I'm Angie." She stepped forward and extended her hand, only to have him stare at it for a moment, obviously confused. "Extend your hand," she said, and waited for him to awkwardly hold out his hand. She gripped it and gave him a firm handshake before letting go. "What brings you to my office?" The prince looked at his hand for a moment before looking back at her. "I wanted to discuss the possibility of hiring your services." "Of course, have a seat." She waved him to one of the leather chairs in front of her desk as she walked around to her side. Before she sat down, though, she pulled out an elaborately decorated mahogany box, extending it to him as she opened it up. "Cigar? Cigarette?" Most Xenos loved tobacco, which is why the hegemony was so careful to keep a monopoly on the stuff. No, thank you. I cough too much." She arched a brow at that before shrugging and putting it away, then taking her seat. "So, why does the prince of a foreign nation need the services of a hegemony lawyer?" "Not just any lawyer. You. I've read reports of your work and watched a few court recordings. Your work is most impressive." He leaned back and then had to shift as he tried to find the best way to position his saber, well, in the chair. "Why do you want my services then?" she corrected. Because I'm going to get married soon." She noticed the slight Shouldn't be funny, but it is funny. She noticed the slight look of fear across his face as she mentioned. She noticed the slight look of fear across his face. She noticed the slight look of fear across his face as he mentioned that. "Congratulations. I'd normally guess that. Congratulations. I'd normally guess that you want to establish a prenup, but since you're a prince, I suspect that's not the case. After all, a hegemony prenup wouldn't hold weight in a royal Fexic court." "That is correct." He nodded, and she stared at him for a moment while he shifted in his chair until he finally just removed the sword belt and leaned it against her desk. Then he leaned back, and finally comfortable. "I need you to rescue me." Angie stared at the smiling prince as she tried to work that out. "I'm sorry, there might be a translation issue here. You need me to rescue you. You're sitting in my office. It doesn't look like you're being held captive." "Oh, yes, I see your point. I need to hire you as a hero to return with me to the delegation and sue my family for freedom to not be married. He nodded. He nodded then, while she arched a brow in confusion. You want me to sue the royal family of the Fexic Empire? Is that correct? I have my suspicions that it won't work. For one, I'm a hegemony lawyer and not very familiar with Fexic law. On top of that, it's the royal family. Can't they just toss the case out? What's wrong with your betrothed anyway? She is a Kirschmid. The flesh-eating beagles. Yes, not beagles. The flesh-eating beetles? Yes, my family thinks that marriage would strengthen our nation for a coming war with the Protectorate. However, I've recently learned that the Kirschmids often eat their mates when they're done, mating. He looked both disgusted and worried about the prospect. Yes, I could see how that might spoil the honeymoon, Angie muttered. Let's go back for a moment. You said you need a hero, but I'm a lawyer. Oh, well, there isn't a better term for it in human. How language is referred to as English, she corrected. Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, sorry. It is difficult keeping all the languages straight in my head. I am glad that you're so understanding of my mistakes. His English was probably better than hers, aside from the minor mistakes here and there. But she didn't tell him that. The hero is a legal position, sort of our champion or representative for court. Ah, well, hero in English is a singular masculine term. You do know that I'm not male, yes? With her stout build and muscles. A few Xenos and even some humans had mistaken her for a male over the years. Why would I think otherwise? Stout features, strong, muscular frame, aggressive attitude. Those are all female characteristics, aren't they? The prince tilted his head, seeming a little confused by her question, which left Angie to try and decide if this was some incredibly elaborate joke being pulled by the other partners, or if she needed to hone up on the Fexic physiology. For now, she'd keep believing him. Well, the proper term, then, would be heroin. Isn't that a type of drug? He asked and tilted his head. No, that would be heroin. Heroine or heroin? She carefully enunciated each word for him to better understand. Well, then you are the heroine I desire, he smiled. She closed her eyes and shook her head for a moment as she tried to sort through their conversation. Let me see if I'm understanding you correctly. You want to hire me as a heroine to sue your family into letting you not marry a flesh-eating beetle? Yes, that is correct. If you're worried about our court system, it is not all that different. There's a judge, a defense, a prosecution. You argue your points, and the judge makes a decision. As I said, I've watched some of your trials. You carry yourself with much confidence and conviction. You'd be perfect. Well, as a human, I strongly agree with the idea that a person should be free to choose who they marry. This all sounds a bit out of my league. I insist that it's not. However, you'd need to return with me today to the embassy, as if they discover my absence, they'll make sure to not let me sneak out again, and won't let you enter without me as your escort. And she shook her head. Now, this really sounds like a bit much. I have no idea what sort of trial to expect. I don't have any documents prepared. Plus, I certainly don't have a defense planned. I should point out that as one of the oldest princes, I legally own several planets and a small fleet. If you represent me, you'd have incredible riches at your disposal to cover any legal fees and then some. Well, there will be many other resources, I can promise you. A direct 100 million credit bonus for winning the case. Angie pressed a button on a terminal to open the line to her secretary. Tina, if anyone calls for me, tell them I'll be out of the office for the rest of the day. Then she stood up and motioned for the door. Let's not keep your family waiting then, shall we? The prince smiled and stood, fastened his saber back to his uniform. You're a natural-born heroine. This is so exciting, like a classical fairy tale where the distressed prince is saved by the strong barbarian from the wastes. Angie swore on every god that could hear her. If this was some sort of practical joke, she'd be punching people in the face. As they walked out of her office and through the main lobby of the office, they were joined by the prince's silent companion in a plain robe, while the others stared at her in surprise. She just smiled at their shock. Yes, that's right. I'm the one who got hired by the Crown Prince. Not any of you. They were doing an exceptional job hiding if they were messing with her. They were doing an exceptional job hiding it if they were messing with her. Soon they were out of the office and walking through Koski Park. The consulates were just across the park from her office, but she'd never actually been there. So anything I need to know about what's going to happen? She asked as they walked along gently curving paths that led through the manicured gardens. My mother will protest, of course. The royal vizier will take her side in the trial. If everything goes well, however, the trial will be over in a few hours. A few hours? That doesn't give me much time to formulate a defense, Angie protested. I'm telling you that once you're in the midst of the trial, it'll come naturally. You've got all the instincts already. Besides, I'm the one who's really at risk if you lose. Angie shrugged a little, conceding his point. Soon they were through the park and approaching the impressive estate that served as a Fexic consulate. It looked like one of the museums her partners visited to mingle with their clients. There were some very stout-looking guards. In front of the entrance that looked very different from the prince. In fact, they looked much more like Angie herself, stout and muscular. Their ears were also rounded, and their tails lacked the stripes the prince had. The gleaming laser pikes they held were also old-fashioned, but the stock guns at their belts were brand new. They looked a little confused as the prince walked up to the stairs to the entrance of the consulate. But didn't stop him. Once they were inside, he shouted something in his own language, which got the attention of the various Fexics around him. And many gasps. Then it was a whirlwind of activity that completely confused Angie. None of them were speaking English, but she kept getting ushered around with the prince. She met with some doctors who ran a quick scan on her, then some officials in uniforms not quite as fancy as the prince's, but then the royal family itself. The entire time she just stood by the prince, listening to them growl and yell back and forth in a language she didn't understand. What she did finally understand was why he wasn't fazed by her appearance. The queen, the other females of the court family, were all stocky and muscular. Their rounded ears and stripeless tails also indicating their gender, apparently. She was so used to dealing with other humans, she totally forgot plenty of other species had very distinct gender dimorphisms. Either way, just like he'd said, the queen was pissed. The other nobility were shocked, but seemed to agree with something the prince was saying. Eventually, she was face to face with a Fexic that was wearing some sort of leather armor. She had grey fur and blue paint drawn in patterns across it. She had grey fur, but blue paint. She had grey fur, but blue. She had grey fur, but blue paint drawn in patterns along her exposed arms and legs. The Grand Vizier, apparently, as the prince finally started to translate. Before the trial begins, you're allowed to choose how to proceed. If you want to change your attire or get any other objects for your defense. My attire? This is the only suit I got. You made this seem urgent, so I came along. I don't even have my briefcase, papers, or tablet, so I'll have to make do with my wits, I suppose. The prince spoke to the others, and there were gasps and murmurs, which made her feel like there were several things that she wasn't being told. Very traditional, they respect that, the prince said, with a nod. Then he led her down the stairs, and they were soon in a circular pit with a sandy floor. Nobles were taking seats up above the pit, and there were a very old-looking Fexic woman who shuffled about. Nobles were taking seats up above the pit, and there was a very old-looking Fexic woman who shuffled out in a massive throne. The queen only got to sit next to her, so perhaps the old woman was the judge. Where are we? Angie asked as she looked up the video. Where are we? Angie asked as she looked. Where are we? Angie asked as she looked up at the Xenos. "We're in court. I wish you luck." He patted her shoulder and quickly left while she looked around the sandy pit, confused, as the Vizier soon joined her, now wearing a set of simple clothing instead of armor from earlier. "The court is now in session," the old woman up top whispered, but her voice was projected by speakers set in the walls. "As the defense for this royal family. As the defense for the royal family. The Vizier argues first." She nodded to the Vizier, who nodded back. Angie expected them to explain how this would all work, but instead, as she turned to face the Vizier, the Xeno punched her in the face. Oop. But instead, as she turned to face the Vizier, the Xeno punched her in the face. "The royal family is beholden to the interests of the people." Angie staggered back before recovering, and then quickly ducking under another swing. The Vizier growled, and then quickly darted forward and landed a body blow to Angie's stomach, making her gasp out. "The emotions of an individual prince are not grounds for changing foreign relations." Angie pulled her arms up, and then started blocking the incoming blows. But even though she was blocking the attacks from doing much, it allowed the Vizier to keep talking. "Our empire operates in the interest of strengthening its people. Our empire operates in the interest of strengthening its people and extending..." Stupid pop-up. Our empire operates in the interest of strengthening its people and extending its borders. Our traditions date back centuries. No member of the hegemony holds title based on heritage, and such offers no benefit to the royal family. This heroine shall be dispatched. The prince shall submit, and the marriage will be Kirschmidt's. And the marriage with the Kirschmidts shall continue. Angie panted a bit as the Vizier pulled back. Her ribs hurt. There was some blood dripping from her lips, and her arms were sore from trying to block those punches. But more importantly, she was pissed. The prosecution is now free to argue," the old Fexic murmured. Angie darted forward, arms up. She feigned a straight jab, waiting for the Vizier to tense, for only to surprise her by knuckling the Vizier in. For it to only surprise her by kicking the Vizier in the shin. As the Xeno stumbled a bit, Angie did actually follow through with a punch, feeling her fist glance the Vizier's cheek. How can a royal family claim to operate in the best interest of their people if they force their own children to political unions devoid of choice or concern? As the Vizier staggered back and pulled her own arms up in defense, Angie quickly followed, delivering 2 successive hooks into the Xeno's ribs. Furthermore, the reason the hegemony does not have hereditary titles is because this was found to result in inbreeding and stagnation of a small elite. And stagnation has a small elite held on to almost all the power. The hegemony believes in equality in titles based on ability. Angie lined herself up for a jab. and notes the Vizier shifting, expecting another kick. So instead, she just leaned all into it, punching the Vizier's raised hand hard enough to make the Vizier essentially hit herself in the face. Tradition and force are not effective methods of ruling. The Vizier staggered back once more, and Angie followed up by punching her in the stomach. Freedom is the only path to a modern, productive, and happy society. The Vizier was reading. The Vizier was still reading, and Angie wanted to end this. It was time to really show them not to mess with a woman born and raised on a high-gravity planet. A woman who'd worked out in a high-gravity gym every day to make sure she didn't lose her muscle tone. She gripped the Vizier's hands, putting them away from her face before Angie tilted her head back and then smashed her forehead into the Vizier's snout, the Xeno's head snapping back as Angie felt a distinct crunch and saw blood fly out of the Xeno's nose. As the Vizier hit the... Thank you very much for the follow. It's very much appreciated. And hello. as the vizier hit the sandy floor. Are we done making noises? As the vizier hit the sandy floor of the court, clearly unconscious, Angie shouted, "Therefore, my client should be free to marry who he wants. The prosecution rests." She was panting a bit, feeling aggressive and on edge still. "Does the defense have any further arguments?" the old Xena up top asked, and as the unconscious vizier clearly didn't respond, she said, "The defense rests. I find in favor of the prosecution. The prince has made his decision." And you could hear gasps and murmurs of the nobles up top as the queen rose and stomped off. Soon, though, the door opened and the prince rushed into the court, hugging Angie. "That was incredible! I told you, you were amazing! No one has defeated the vizier in a single round before! You've saved me from my evil mother." Angie was grinning now, carried away in the moment. "Yeah, I showed her how humans practice law. It's the greatest trial I've ever been in. So you'll be my heroine for life then?" Yeah, sure." "Excellent! We'll have the wedding immediately. I can't believe I've got you for a wife. I promise to be the best husband possible." "Yeah," Angie grinned as... "Yeah," Angie grinned as the words hit her. Wait, what? End of story. Alrighty. Now I'm back, chat. We've reached our follower goal of 260. It's very much appreciated. 7 viewers, and it's awesome. On Twitch. Many more on YouTube, I imagine. Sean Laurie, that would be HFY for Coyote. I've done several of his stories. Oh, their stories. And it is 6 Rocks, if I remember correctly, and some other stuff. Give me a second and I will catch up with chat. I just want to do this edit quick. That was the most physical narration I've done. I suppose it's fitting for the story. Like I said at the beginning, if all trials were like this, I'd probably watch them. No. 6 Rocks is not next. Somebody was asking where they could find your stuff, Coyote, so I was just pointing them in your direction. 6 Rocks has now moved over to the series channel, so I'll catch up with that at some point. Once I start doing series again. I can't zoom. I can't chat. Oh, thank you for the 5 gifted subs, Amtru. It is very much appreciated. The glitchy thing means I can't actually go back. It's, yeah. So any funny things that were said while I was narrating? Awesome. Any bad things? Boo. Any good things? Yay. There we go. I responded to all the chat that I missed. Alright. Yes. So, I've got a hobbled together way to read chat, but I can't go back. So, unfortunately, I can't respond. If it was a question you asked while I was narrating, feel free to ask now. I'll try answer it. And I do apologize for missing it. For Old English, I'd rather poke my eye out with a spoon. High school. At the last 3 grades, or standards, whatever you want to call it, which in South Africa is 9, 10, 10, 11, and 12 in grades, or 8, 9, 10 in standards. I had to read Macbeth for 3 years, out loud to the class. I
I do not like Macbeth. And I basically had to solo read it because I was the only person who could read out loud to any competent degree. Obviously, this is kid competent, not adult competent, but yeah. Even, what was it? Princess of Mars, which isn't even like ye old English. The language has changed so much that the flow fucks with me so badly. Okay, we're just going to export that one. Bing, bing. Okay. I'm going to stop recording the video. Awesome. So that was that one. The next one is also quite a chunky boy. Good morning, Lord Hauler. Hopefully it is a great morning. Terry Brooks is okay. I remember he did the Shannara series. I remember that from way back when. Huh? Yes. No? Yes. Shannara series. Ha! It was Terry Brooks. Yeah, I remembered something. It's not Swiss cheese up here all the time. Kingdom for Sale was awesome. One of the first fantasy books I read. Hello, something random I can find. Aye, and then that cuts off, so I don't know what the rest are. I can find it, yes. Nice, Sir Poobart. Nice. I think the only vintage one I've done is Princess of Mars. Because it was like, it is an HFY story through and through. But I didn't really get that much of a decent response. We're going to close that. We're going to open a new one. Yeah, I hate it when that happens. I mean, it's just all luck. Battletech is kind of like Macross. Kinda. There was a 20-year court case between the two. I think. That recently ended. Read this. And this. No. Do that thing. Do what I want you to do, damn it, not what I'm asking you to do. Rascally computer. I've read Asimov, I've read Jules Verne over the years. Not many. Well, be hard pressed to remember specifically which ones, but books, stories have now kind of culminated in my brain because I've read so many of them, narrated them. So it's like, well, yes, the story sounds familiar, but I do not know when or where I read it. Edgar Rice Burroughs. Oh, excuse me. He did Princess of Mars. No. No. Listen to me. No. Okay. The spork, yes. Not quite a fork, not quite a spoon. It's not good at either, and it's definitely not good at both. tricky thing with Regal is you need to check the comments, because you're often posted extra bits to the story in the comments. This is way back when. Way back. Okay. I think, I'm trying to remember what my first science fiction book was. Don't know. Can't remember off the top of my head. But I definitely know we watched a lot of sci-fi stuff when I was growing up. Like Star Trek Generations and the like. Yep, big stompy robots for the win. M1. I don't think I actually ever read Ender's Game. I watched the movie, but I've never read the book. It was on my to-do list. I had a whole bunch of classic science fiction that I wanted to read, and then just never got around to it. Well, he's still active on Reddit, so you can always do that. M10. Yeah, we're doing a Western, boys. We're doing Western chat. Do it in a nice American accent. Kinda. This will be M2. Didn't know the age of this child. And that is a problem. I think this is a child. So we probably have to give it a child voice. That makes sense. I think it's child. We'll go with C1 for now. Yeah. I don't think my American voice is good enough to be considered John Wayne. M2. Oh, that's C1. Maybe we'll go with the dad with M10. American son and a British child. This always makes sense. I've read Lord of the Rings twice, and second time was so much worse than the first time. First time everything's new, second time's like, I don't want a 6-page song. Please, make the songs go away. 17, okay, so it's not a child's voice. What are we doing? See, Snively? Yes, he is being a bit snively. Where are we, son? I think we're gonna go with 4. 4. 4. 4. M10. Good morning, Philip. I hope you are doing well today. That energy drink has bones in it. I don't know. I don't watch a lot of modern movies. I've gotten to the point where I'll wait several years, and if it still sounds like a good movie, then I'll watch it. But I don't generally watch a lot of movies anyway. You should probably get some sleep, long hauler. Although, I do understand sleep not happening, insomnia being a lifelong, well, an adult lifelong companion. For me, at the very least. Not a problem, Mackenzie. Not a problem at all. I hope you have a decent sleep. Hopefully you get some sleep. All right. That's awesome. I'm glad it helps, long haul. I really am. I've been stuck in positions where you just want something to keep the mind engaged, but you can never find it. It's part of the reason why I started the channel. Very small part. Desperation being the very big part. Whether it's having audio while you play games or while you work, it's great. I'm glad that it helps. Alright. Recording story number 2. Just recording mode. Just move that down and out. Fell off my armrest. Okay. Audio. Audio is recording. Video is recording. Alright, I'll see you all at the end of this. First though, some energy. Alrighty. Greetings, ladies and metal gents, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales. Nope. Greetings, ladies and metal gents, and welcome to this latest Read TFOS, where I take old stories and update them to modern standards for your enjoyment. This particular story is called The Spark, written by Igor. Urgith 4535. I stared at the words on the side of the wall. Why did they even bother painting it up there in the first place? Where else would they go?
Who was leaving this place? A planetoid this size was most efficiently mined by 3,000 miners, and so 3,000 miners had. No more, no less, with just enough families around to keep the population where it needed to be. The Archaeid Empire wasn't interested in ferrying slaves around if they didn't have to. The current number of miners was even displayed on the most of the... The current number of miners was even displayed on most of the walls, a constant reminder that when the number dropped, more were expected to pick up the tools and get to work. Day in, day out. You work the mines just long enough to die, and then you get replaced. Mine collapsed, industrial accident, ghost lung, or being beat to death by an angry overseer. The cause made no difference to the Archaeid, so long as the quotas were met and the populations remained stable. There was something like 1,500 tarmacs. Since the sightless bugs didn't need light to get around in the mines. Roughly 1,000 Kershaks and Bershaks, since the symbiotic creatures were strong, but a good Bershak lived 3 times as long as any of the Archaeids could recycle. But a good Bershak lived 3 times as long. But a good Bershak lived 3 times as long. Supposed to be a comma there. But a good Bershak lived 3 times as long, meaning the Archaeids could recycle many of the parasites with new hosts and get new miners with experience of an old one. I'm not as familiar with the last 499, however. The Archaeids had just conquered some new nation of mixed races, so I was still getting to know them. But the last one, number 3,000, that was my dad. Him and Doc were the only 2 other humans I knew. Not much was left of one race brave and stupid enough to stand against the Archaeid. Pirates, criminals, and miners. That's all that remained. I sighed softly as I stared. I sighed softly as I started to wander the halls of level 2 while waiting for Dad to finish up with the dock. They'd have to move quickly after all, if they wanted to get to the mess hall. I hated level 2. Storage, machine shop, docks, med bay. It was always quiet. Much preferred staying on level 3 or 4 with everyone else. Being the only human kid had made me stand out, but I knew how to make friends. Lately, though, my friends had been avoiding me. I knew why, of course. All the Archaeids had to say about humans was how dangerous humans adults were. How often they were degenerates, murderers, how they tortured and committed acts of mass violence. It always seemed like they just didn't want any species muscling in on their turf. Besides, it had to be crap. Doc and Dad were the 2 nicest people on the station. Everyone looked at them for help and guidance. No human was allowed a management position in the mine, but everyone knew if the Kizik or Nurm were stumped, they'd give Dad a visit. Plus Doc was human. Somehow he'd gotten a real education, knew lots about other Xenos and medicine and the like. The Archaeids normally didn't let slaves have a doctor, but this way their station was more efficient, which meant taskmasters got more commendations, which made them happy. But this station was more efficient, which meant Taskmaster got more commendations, which made him happy. What was taking so long? I was tired of waiting. Whenever I was alone with my thoughts, I got antsy. I pushed open the door to Doc's office just as Dad coughed, and I saw a great cloud escape his lips. Doc turned away, even though he had a protective mask on. No! The 2 looked and saw me standing at the doorway. Son! Dad got up, buttoning his shirt. I told you to wait outside. You've got ghost lung? That couldn't be right. Dad couldn't get the lung. He couldn't. I didn't need you finding out. Doc, how bad is it? I looked to the doc for answers. Doc, don't tell him, Doc, Dad growled. He's gotta know, Doc said, looking from Dad to me. He's been hiding it very well for a while, but it's bad. He doesn't have long if he stays in this mine. He doesn't have long if he stays in the mine. Then I'll take his place. Then I'll take his place.
No, you're 17. You're not ready.
For what? For working to death in the mines? And what am I not ready for? I've seen the work. I know it won't be easy, but I can do it. We'd had this argument plenty of times before.
No,
Dad growled, and then began to cough and wheeze furiously.
That's why I have that hair trigger mute button.
No, Dad growled, and then began to cough and wheeze furiously. More puffs of grey smoke coming out. Doc, you can't let him go back down there.
I won't.
I won't, Doc soothed. Your father needs time to rest anyway. I'll tell the overseers that he's suffering from several minor fractures, and you're taking over until he's better. That'll keep them from questioning it, and I can keep an eye on him before they find out he's got the lung. Go on, off to dinner now. Get some sleep. You know where to go in the morning. The entire trip to Sector 3, I wasn't thinking much about anything. I was just worried about Dad and working on figuring out something. I really don't know what I was thinking about. Not much of anything. Did I really know? Did I already notice that? When they dumped the slop on my tray, I just kept moving. Not even thinking to nod or respond to those talking to me. Rismond, old Hornus, they probably tried talking, but as soon as... Rism, old Hornus. Rism, old Hornus, they probably tried talking, but I was soon off on my own, shoveling in the slop as I couldn't get anything going through my mind. Somehow, I made it back to our room without remembering what happened in the mess hall, or how I'd been moving my feet. I just sat on my bed, looking out the tiny window into the mine entrance down below. Night shift was out there. Like usual, the clouds and dust blocked out the stars, but I could see the mine entrance bright and clear. I must have dozed off while staring, because next thing I knew, they were starting to get light, and the bell was ringing. I grabbed my set of steels. Wasn't like there was any other kind of shoes that would fit a human like me. Vest, hard hat, light, tea flask, and rock bread. The line for chow was too long for my taste, and as nervous as I was, I didn't think I could keep it down anyway. I headed out to the mines with most of the old crowd. Those who didn't eat morning chow either, for one reason or another. I could feel the rise in me. Everyone wanted to ask why I was here, but none of them did. When the door opened to the outside, I quickly wrapped the cloth around my face and put my head down, jogging across the open, stopping before I got ran over by one of the massive drone haulers, and then moving again once they'd rumbled past. At the mine entrance, I saw one of the red powered suited guards. He was holding a data slate and looked from it to me.
You boy, why are you here?
Doc is looking after my dad. Some fractures need to heal.
You haven't taken any training yet.
I don't need it. I was born to dig. That's all humans are good for, right? Yeah, I don't need it. I was born to dig. That's all humans are good for, right? The guard laughed, and I could tell. The guard laughed, and I could see his mandibles within his helmet twitch at the same thing.
I'm glad that we killed the fight out of you miserable vermin. Get in the mine then, you'll be. Get in the mine then, where you belong.
He waved me past, and I held my tongue, venturing down into the deep. Mines, day one. Came to talk to me personally. I think he knew about Dad, but never dared say anything. He tried to get me into some light detail, but the arcade overseers heard I was down here and made sure I got sent straight down to the bottom. Not just that, but down to vein 485 with all the Termic miners. I was the only one with a light and the need to see. They were all well-meaning, but spending a shift in the mines, hearing and feeling things chitter and moving around in the dark all around me, well, there was some deep shivers in my bones that had nothing to do with the cold. Of course, the other effects was I stood out like a sore them to the overseer, so whenever there was a slowdown, who do you think that got the lash? It was set to low, but I still felt the sting 4 times, and I was tired. It was set to low, but I felt the sting 4 times, and I was tired of it after the first. The others worked harder, though, seeing me take their punishment, which just meant the overseer got more production from less work on his part, as if whipping me was work at all. I never thought I'd be as glad as I was for a slot that night, and as soon as my head hit the pillow, I was out. Day 7. Doc says that he's not sure how to get the meds he needs to get Dad better without drawing notice. Says he'll do what he can. So far, they don't really care. I think we've only got about a month before they actually start asking questions. Otherwise, another long day in the dock. I'm down to 2 lashes a day now. When I hear or see the others struggling, I quickly pick up on my own pace, or even step in to help them. That way, we don't actually slow down, and he's got less excuse to use the whip. I wish we had more water. The mine dust leaves everything in my mouth feeling gritty. Day 12. Cuz said I was doing so good and the overseers couldn't keep me in vein 485. They moved me to 487 and into more light. The problem is, it's the new guys. There's 3, maybe 4 species I don't know as well. They're not great miners. 10 lashes today, and I swear none of the offenses were my fault. But they like whipping humans. We can take more punishment, and we were the only ones who gave them a trouble, back when we were a united species, with a nation, and our own planets, and the like. I'll see what I can do to get them into shape. Day 16. I saw the Taskmaster today. I knew that he was big, but seeing is different than imagining. Beat 3 of the new species to death. I'm not sure it was their fault. Beat 3 new species to death. I'm not sure it was their fault the drill broke. I'm really not. Didn't matter to him, of course. Just grabbed them and, he beat them to death. Screaming and ranting about mistakes costing the quotas and the like. He doesn't wear a helmet like the others, and I think he enjoys seeing everyone quake in fear at the sight. The scars, those teeth, that ugly mug in general. I didn't get lashed today. They were too busy yelling at the others. I wasn't allowed near the real tools yet. Just a las pick, like always. Either way, a day without lashes is nice. Tomorrow, we'll have 3 fresh faces, and I suspect a lot more lashes. Day 18. My muscles have started to grow, I think. I hurt a lot, and on the day off a week we get, I just rest and sleep. But maybe as I keep at it, things will change. A couple friends came by. Their parents seem to think that working in the mines means I'm not a threat. But I don't have any energy to really do much. They talk about what's been going on, what I've missed. I hope none of them get selected for the mine. Yasern said that the avian Xeno I saw liked some guy. The others tried to keep him quiet, but I just laughed. Sure, she looked cute, but she was not human. I realize now it doesn't matter. Even without the ghost lung, my dad's old, and so is Doc. So I'll be the last human alive on the stupid rock, sooner or later. Day 21. Day 21. It's been 3 weeks now. They say that this is the fastest anyone's been moved up from a pick to a shoulder drill. It's heavy, but I could use it and fix it on my own. No team required. The overseers can't argue with efficiency. The battery pack also means no more lashes. Small favors, though, since the damn thing is hot. Day 31. Been busy. Work, eat, sleep. Just about all I can do is string along thoughts to get from one of those things to the other. Two cave-ins this last week. None in my section. I've been telling him which way to dig. Not like officially, of course. Just saying things like, I'm going to dig this way. I'm going to dig this way. I've got a good feeling. And they know enough to follow my lead. Doc says Dad's tests are looking better, which is good. He didn't cough once while we spoke. Just tried to tell me all the stuff he said a million times. I'll ask to let him know I'm doing fine. Day 45. Another cave-in. Something's pushing Taskmaster, and I don't know what. Two more beat to death on top of who we lost in the cave-in. I hope like crazy that I don't see any of my friends in here tomorrow. Day 46. Hi, Gurn, you poor, stupid bastard. Why you? I talked to Nisran, got him assigned to work. I talked to Nisran, got him assigned to my work crew. He's Test gets battery keeper. Gotta keep an eye on him. Day 52. Doc says they're starting to ask about Dad. He tried to play it off like it was taking his place. He tried to play it off like I was taking his place, but they weren't having that. It's their call. It's their call if someone can retire, and they're not letting my dad retire. Something about the quotas. Then Taskmaster is really getting some orders about cranking up production. Day 63. Dad says I've really filled out in the last 2 months. I've had to agree the work has made me strong. Not strong enough to keep from being tired all the time, but still, I'm getting better. Not good enough to save Hirgen from getting lashed, though. I keep telling him to pay more attention, to keep focus on the pack at all times. He just doesn't quite get it. I feel bad, but I'm not getting whipped because I'm doing my work, and then some. Day 75. Day 75. Dad's finally had to come back down. Nissim and Kizik somehow convinced the overseers to let him have minor duties. He's basically guiding the vein digs now. We'll meet those damn quotas, all right. Day 80. Production is up. We're doing good. No cave-ins. Quotas are being met. That's all it took for him to get us back on track. See them try and say humans are worthless now. Day 90. Why are you here on your day off? I asked Dad as we were up on the main hollow before I'd head down to the vein. I want you to go to the blasting team. Watch how they work, when they place charges. They've got you slated for demolitions work soon, and I'd prefer you to watch it happen before they give you anything that'll go boom. What? Are you afraid that What? Are you afraid that What? Are you afraid I'll use it to make my escape? Let me just stuff it up my pants and use it to blast me out of this rock. We laughed, and he shook his head before I saw Cresta waving at me from across the way. I dodged one of the drone haulers and made it over to him before looking back and seeing Taskmaster next to Dad. I froze. Where had he come from? The massive Xenos spoke to Dad, and I kept watching. Don't cough. Don't cough. The Taskmaster was nodding about something. Was he actually going to let Dad become a real foreman? The things we could dig up if he was really in charge. Maybe it was a good thing that the Taskmaster had something pushing on him. Then, one of the drone haulers drove past with a particularly dusty load, and I saw Dad cough. The fog came out. Not as bad as before, but no! I was starting to run forward before I felt Cresta and his team pull me back out of the way of the next drone hauler. I saw Taskmaster pull his firearm free just as my dad looked up. No! The drone hauler blocked them from sight, but I heard the echo of the shot, and once more it was past. The drone hauler blocked them from sight, but I heard the echo of the shot and once it was past, I saw my father's body crumpled on the floor of the mine. I pulled free of the crew's grip, running across just before the next hauler hit me. I was making noise, but I couldn't honestly tell you what I was saying. I was making noise, but I couldn't honestly tell what it was I was trying to say. As I got close, something hit me hard in the gut. I collapsed just feet from my father's body. I tried to reach out for him, pull myself closer, but strong metal hands were putting me away. I was crying, sobbing, tears and snot running down my face as dust and dirt got stuck to it all. I was hauled up by two guards as I kept trying to reach my dad.
Very disappointing. I thought you came down to start learning more skills, to improve yourself and make a bid at getting assigned a mate. But instead it seems you were trying to hide this weakness.
I looked up at the taskmaster, vision blurry with tears, confused by his words.
How very extremely irritating.
He leaned down, screaming in my face.
I had plans for him, plans for you, and now that he didn't have time to teach you everything. The quotas won't stop.
I didn't see the backhand coming, but I felt it. Pain searing across my face as his talons cut into my flesh, blood now mixing with tears.
You pathetic wretches are always such a disappointment.
I was in shock. I couldn't think. I just felt pain. Pain. Sadness. No. Anger. Not yet.
Take him to the doctor. I won't punish him for his father's weakness, but I won't reward him. No more days off. You're either working a vein or learning a new skill. I'm tired of the old rules. You'll learn quickly if you don't want the others to suffer for your mistakes.
Taskmaster waved dismissively as the guards began to drag me back towards the surface. I saw the incineration team moving towards my father's body. They weren't willing to risk letting the ghost lungs spread. I don't really remember much else that day. Doc patched me up, but I'd have scars for sure. While I was getting tended to in the medbay, one of the guards brought up a small steel container and handed it to me. On the side was written, "A reminder." It was my father's ashes.
You don't need your old room now. You're staying on this level, room 13, the guard growled.
That's just a closet, I heard Doc protest. That's just a closet, I heard Doc protest, but I was staring at the container.
He needs nothing more. He needs nothing more than a bed and the books we give him. Taskmaster says you learn quick, or the others suffer.
On the wall, I could see the mine account, 2,999. Day 120. It's been a month since. Day 132. It's a day off, so I'm reading more manuals and books about mining and the gear. It's my birthday. I'm alone in a closet, and that's my home. I'm alone in the closet. That's now my bedroom. Happy birthday to me. I'm 18, an adult. Day 145. I'm the best blaster there is by none. The others won't work with me anymore, though. They say I'm too dangerous. They're probably right. But it gives me time to be alone. Day 167. I nearly killed myself. I was careless. I knew it was too close to the seam. I brought down a lot of ore. But I was trapped in the dark for 4 hours. I was trapped in the dark for 4 hours while they dug me out. I'd sort of hoped that I might just suffocate, but they did get to me. The overseer's only remark,
"Good job, that's a lot of ore. Back to work."
I get it now. I don't want to die. I want them to die. I'm done. I'm not going to live out my life like this. I'm just not. Day 193. Most of my friends are in the mines. I don't care anymore. I'll free them soon. The overseers say I'm working harder than ever. I can fix machines, guide tools, and blow open new paths like a berserk at the end of his days. I told them I was born to do this. What I planned next, I'm not born to do. But I will do it. I've been studying, I've been reading, I've been planning. One day a week I get 3 hours in an old side tunnel near the surface. I lie about what I'm doing, but they won't care anyway. I'm digging just a last pick. I'm getting close to the maintenance room beneath the arcade's quarters. A fraction of the number of the rest of us with 3 times the space and all the accommodations they desire. They're getting soft. They're getting lazy. Day 243. Been so damn busy. Getting close to my goal. Gotta be careful now. I can't trust anyone. I've seen them get beaten to death, whipped to shreds. They won't stand up. They all think arcades are invincible. They're wrong. The arcades are always so careful about their whips and weapons in their building. Why would they need those? We've got mining tools. They'll learn soon. Day 289. I wanted to show the others our tormentors aren't immortal. It was perfect. I knew that fat, lazy overseer in vein 473 always hangs back. I set off an explosion along a seam 3 veins over that disturbed the rock. Crushed him, just like planned. No one else was hurt. I was hauled in front of the taskmaster in the main cave before everyone else. I begged and pleaded that I had no idea that would happen. I'd been pushing myself hard, trying to learn quick like he'd asked. I thought about my dad and cried a bit. Really sold the performance, I think. He said that he'd be kind and spare my life, but my ignorance was not an excuse. 50 lashes, medium power, before everyone. My sobbing was all too real. My sobbing was real before long. My back was in ribbons. It was worth it. Day 300. It wasn't worth it. They all talk about how crazy it was, but they seem to think the only way they can die is if someone drops 10 tons of rocks on their heads. I have to show them. They have to see. I've begun sneaking out tools, picking locks. I've got some caches ready and know how to open up more. Day 312. Another day off. I was reading in my room when a guard suddenly opened the door and shoved a Xeno inside. "Heard you used to like this one." He laughed and left. I was confused as hell until I recognized the avian. Her clothes were torn. She was crying. I didn't know how far they'd gone, but I sure as hell didn't ask. They were mocking me, hurting people I liked. I wasn't sure. I pulled her close, tried to soothe her. She wasn't very fluent in Orcish, but I tried to convey what I could. I sung for her, that old lullaby Mom sang to me when I was little. Before they split her up from Dad and I. She seemed to like that. I just held her close till she seemed better and told her to stay strong. I didn't tell her the plans or anything, just in case. Day 326. Day 326. I broke into the maintenance room last night. Perfect spot. Got no idea how long it'll last, so I have to make this work. I took Dad's ashes to the dock. I asked him if there was still ghost lung and dust in it. He wasn't sure, but figured there might be a bit. Then I asked him if he could make sure that there was, and left. I know he's confused, but I know he won't talk. Day 330. Doc gave me back the ashes. Didn't say a word, but he also handed me a protective mask. Day 337. I dumped the ashes into the air ventilation machine. See how they like breathing in the dust? I also installed the bomb and covered up my tracks. Day 342. A lot of the overseers have a nasty cough these days. Day 345. I've got no idea what our whole world was really called, but my mom used to tell me how it was beautiful. Her mother told her that at least. Blue skies, green trees, birds singing. It sounded nice. Even though I have no idea what it was really called, I know that today it would have been 1 year back there from the day I first entered the mines to work. It's the last day I enter the mines. I wait for most of the shift to leave before I trigger the bomb. People are screaming. The ground is shaking. I scream about a big collapse. Tell everyone with an able body to get to the mine. We gotta help. In the mines, of course, people will be shaking around. In the mines, of course, people will be shaking around and scared, but they're fine. People don't notice the arcade building shaking harder and the smoke pouring out of it. As everyone gets into the main cave, I start tossing picks, drills, explosives. They're confused. One of the overseers sees me and walks over, but before he can say anything, I've driven the last pick straight into his helmet. I can hear the gasps around me.
Pick up your tools. You're going to need them. I just hit their home. They're gaunt and mortal. They are our captors. It is up to us to bring them down.
I saw 2 overseers rush out of one of the side tunnels and heft up an impact driver, and I removed the safety on. The bolt went straight through the chest before pinning him to the wall. The second screamed before a second bolt went through his head. I dropped the impact driver and hurled a charge at the entrance to Vein 34, where they had break room set up. 4 of them got smeared across the walls. The others were scared and confused. They needed to fight. There was a massive roar as I saw Taskmaster burst free from the smoke coming out of the tunnel. I used to sneak into their maintenance room.
You!
He pointed at me and charged. I ducked, jumped, and swiped with a digging claw. I heard him scream as I dug 3 deep gouges across his face. He'd have scars, just like mine now. I turned and tried to leap for the impact driver, but he grabbed me. The suit made him too fast, but I bet he wished he had a helmet now. The talon squeezed my throat as he lifted me into the air. I could see more guards coming down the main ramp and out of the tunnels, but they were seriously outnumbered by the other miners standing around. Taskmaster was focused on me.
I'll torture you for years. The pain will be unending and nothing will stop it. I will take you to our home world and put you on display.
This was where my plan ended. I gasped, hands pulling on my forearm to try and make the weight of... Hands pulling on his forearm to try and take the weight of my throat.
Maybe I'll see your mother there and show her what a real species can do in bed.
He screamed in my face and tightened his grip. Everything hurt for a moment, but I felt a snap, and then it all went numb. He tossed me to the ground, but I could feel it. I was just looking up at everything from the floor. He rubbed a hand across the bleeding cuts on his face.
Back to work, all of you!
He screamed at the miners, but I saw them stare back. They looked at the dead guards. They looked at his bleeding face. They looked at me.
You heard him.
An overseer with a whip stepped forward, raising his arm to lash out. But Caster stepped forward and drove a pick through the overseer's faceplate, just like I had earlier. The entire area was silent. Then it all exploded. The miners were rushing forward as the arcades either died or started to run. I could see the fear flash across Taskmaster's face. Not used to that emotion, you bastard. Get used to it. I wish I could have said that. Someone was soon kneeling near me, perhaps trying to help me, but I was fading now. I could still hear the screaming and yelling. There were other explosions. Finally! I'd showed them the way. I knew. For generations, they'd been using the tools of their oppressors to dig in the ground. They'd never seen that those tools could be used to free themselves. Sometimes, all it took was a spark. Today, a man died, but a rebellion was born. Rebellion. Day 1. End of story. Dun, dun, dun. Time to ban somebody. And banned. Okay. Alrighty. Story number 2 done.
Hello? Yes, there we go. I will be back momentarily. The hydration is catching up with me. I'll give you some space shanties to listen to.
Set sail on a ship. To the stars we shall roam. Through the vastness of space. No place like our home. Hoist the sails high. Let the solar winds blow. This cosmic sea shanty is a tale we all know. Navigating constellations, charting the unknown. With the stardust in our veins, we are never alone. From the Milky Way shores to the depths of black holes, we'll sing our sea shanty as the universe unfolds. Sail up high to the galactic sky on our moonlit voyage. We'll keep reaching high. We're sailors of the cosmos, a crew full of might. Let's sing this sea shanty under starry night's light.
Hoist the sails and let the wind guide our way. We're the spacemen sailing the cosmic bay. From Jupiter to Saturn we'll deliver our freight. On our starship, sailing through the interplanetary strait. With a hardy crew and a cargo of dreams. Through the nebula's mist we'll forge our own schemes. In the vastness of space where no man has been, we'll navigate, chart the unexplored galactic highway. Give home maze upon the starry sea. We're the spacemen sailing through infinity. With our voices loud and our spirits free.
Can number 2. Already been going for 2.5 hours. That's quite a lot. Alrighty, just doing a little bit of hydration before we move on to the next story, which will probably be the last one of the day. No. I only drink the sugar-free one, so if it's not in sugar-free variety, then I haven't tried it. This is the green one, but it's the new sugar-free green one. Okay. The bubbles are attacking back. It's never good. Well, I got no choice. I either drink sugar-free or water. I don't like water. Okay, and what are we doing? We're going up there, and we're opening up these. Thankfully, the next one's shortish. just need the name. Alright. Blamo, next story. Why does it sound so soft? Maybe my ears just aren't working properly. Key, close you, and move off to the top. Yeah, Tim Curry was awesome actor. One of my favorites. Definitely one of my favorites. And not because of the, Tiberian son stuff. Okay. M3. M4. M3. M3. M1. Oh. Gersynced. Who's Gersynced? Gersynced. It's the first guy speaking. No. Second guy. Third guy? No, I think that's 4. M4. M3. Yeah. Okay, we've got 4 characters. We've got Gershmik, Frasthus, Nux, and Serish. Okay, M10, 5. Or what if we just try barreling through the rest of the field? F1. Definitely got a whole host of voices all over the place. Yes, the Butler and Clue was awesome. I also love the fact that there's like 7 endings to that, and they played them in different cinemas, and that was awesome. Who's he? M5. F3. M5. I do not know who's talking. Good morning, Mr. Larry. And Banana. Good morning. Hope you're doing well. I don't know. Signals of the world. Violet, pink, clear. To okay, so Francis is female. It's going to be 2. F2. 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 Four. M4. M5.
Oh, it's just a human ship. Yeah, those primitives couldn't possibly have anything like that.
F1. F2. F1. Definitely bouncing all over the place. M5. M3. 4. Yeah, it does call him a he there, but it calls it a her down here. So, whatever. Thank you very much for the $20 super chat, Peanut Gallery. It's very much appreciated. M12. How was M12? Ah.
My contribution to your continued success.
There you go. M12. Done. Nailed. Naughty badge. M4. M5. F2. 1, 1, 1. I don't think Tim Curry was in Lion King. Was somebody else. Who was he? I don't think Tim Curry was in Lion King. M5. No, that was I don't know exactly who that was. Also a famous British actor. Who played Scar in Lion King? Jeremy Irons. Yes. Good old Jeremy Irons. Yeah. I mean, he did a lot of voice work, especially later in his life. F2? Frathus? Frathus is F2. And 3, 4, right. And 1, F1, M5, M4, M5, M10, M10, M5, F2, 1, 1. M10, M4, M5, He was the end boss in Die Hard 3. Okay. F1. Blah, blah, blah. I don't know who's talking, so we'll go with Cockney accent because it's funny. F1. M3. Which is not M3, it's M4. This is M5. It's definitely this little short story is going all over the place. Ticking all the voice boxes. Yeah, Tim Curry and Robin Williams, definitely great. Both great actors. In their own right. F2 is Farthus. It's his chair. Whatever. We've changed it. It's M3. Fine. We'll be professional about this and change all the F2s back to F3 because it was, I don't know. M3. That was F1. We want F2. F2. We can work our magic here. We can go find F2. Replace with M3. Okie dokie. Copy and error. My favorite combination. M5, M5, M10, M10, F1, F1, M4, M5, M4, there, M4, M10, I don't know, some bad British actors. I think any British actor that makes it in the American market is decent, but not all British actors are good. Thank you for popping past, Long Hauler. I hope you have a fantastic sleep. Thank you for popping past. It's very much appreciated. About 890 re-T-Fosses away from 909. Probably a little less. I do skip some. Okay, we're down. Yeah, I haven't watched Doctor Who in a long time. Matt Smith. Most of Matt Smith. I stopped watching near the end there. All right. Story number next. Let's get her done. Okay. I'm going to minimize that. We're going to move you from over there to over here. We're going to hit record. we're going to open you up. We're going to hit record 2. All right, we're recording video. We're recording audio. And here we go. Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of Read Tifos, where I take old stories and update them to modern standards for your entertainment. This particular story is called Manual Control, written by Regal Legal Eagle. No. Frathers pounded on the console, but it didn't do any good. It wasn't coming back online. He took a heavy sigh and held his head in his hands as he heard the others move up behind him. Is it? Yes. The whole thing is fried. The Dominion mine worked perfectly. It blew the navigation array off completely. He waved a hand out in front of the window. They could see the wreckage drifting free of the ship to join the rest of the debris field. And it probably sent off a signal, so it's just a matter of time before the patrol ship swoops in and kills us all. The others in the command crew looked glum at the news. To make it this far and only to fall at the finish line, so to speak. When they found the precious intel they knew would track back to friendly territory would be perilous, but they'd all volunteered. The debris field was supposed to be a calculated risk, and the Dominion wouldn't keep it well patrolled for fear of damaging their own ships. But they hadn't expected the mine. What do we do? Try to board us? What do we do? To try a broad spectrum transmission? Gersmek asked. And let the Dominion know what we found? Frathus growled. What if we just try barreling through the rest of the field? Nox thought aloud, but everyone's silence made it clear that wouldn't work. For some reason, Serish was looking out the window, probably just observing the wreckage. I think there's a ship out there, she said, and Gershmek quickly ran to his console and looked it over. You are mistaken. No, that's not Gersh. You're mistaken. I don't have anything on sensors, no nav signals or autopilot pings. He looked over as she pointed out the window. But look, Frathers sighed and moved over to push her out of the way. Clearly you are mistaken. He looked out through the Clearly you are mistaken. He looked out through the debris cloud and was about to confirm that she was mistaken, but instead he squawked in surprise and pointed. There's something out there. It's moving around. Getting closer. Now the rest of the crew rushed over, crowding around as they tried to peer out through the window. Oh! Gersmek exclaimed. How? Gersmek exclaimed. We've got excellent sensors. Is it some new stealth ship that can disguise its navigation signals? Norks snorted and flapped his throat pockets in derision. It's just a human ship. Those primitives couldn't possibly have anything like that. They only discovered FTL half a generation ago. True, but they're neutral. They might help us, Suresh exclaimed, always so full of help. Oh, it's probably a mine as well, Brathis muttered. Why else can we not read on their sensors? Well, then, how is it moving? Suresh asked, and everyone was quiet. They watched the ship get closer. Brathis figured it must be kilometers away based on how small it was. Then the proximity alarms on the ship turned on, and he jumped in surprise. It wasn't far away. It was tiny. How did the humans make a ship that small without artificial gravity? Or biofarm pods? They watched it edge closer, tiny white puffs of something nudging the ship bit by bit towards them. Finally, it was above their ship, and they heard a clang as it stuck to their hull. What's it doing? Why didn't it go to the docking arm? Nox asked. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't have one? Gersmek shrugged. Doesn't have one? How do they get between ships then? Nox demanded. They waited and then all jumped as they heard something clang on the side. As they heard something clang on the ship. It kept clanging until Serish figured it out. It's outside the airlock in some sort of suit. Nuox shoved her out of the way as he looked at the terminal. What sort of barbarian ventures into the void wearing only a precious suit? Madness!
Mad or not, it's trying to get in, Frathers said. Let it in. But the locking ring isn't engaged. How do we open it manually? Gershmek asked, and everyone looked confused. They'd never had to engage the controls on their own. Frathers sighed and stepped up to the terminal to make the airlock go through the various phases to let the small creature into the ship. After the airlock cycled, the crew crowded around the inside door. After the airlock cycled, the crew crowded around the inside door, watching it open before the human stepped inside. The human was wearing a blue pressure suit that looked like something they'd see in a museum. No Brecken had used something like that in centuries at least. It was a full head shorter than even Serish, and it seemed frail and dainty by comparison to the rest of them. Are you here to help? Serish asked. I bet it set it to trap, Nuox claimed, which was scary. Nuox claimed, which was crazy. How do you navigate without a computer? Gershmek asked. The human stepped back, seemingly overwhelmed by the talking, before holding up a hand, indicating that they wait. Then it held up some sort of strange device. What's it doing? Nuox wondered aloud. The human then pressed a button on the device, and they heard a small, grainy voice speak in terrible Brecken. Welcome, greetings. I'm a person human, and may love making maps. After that played, the human hit another button. Do you need help? Oh, by the Saviour, it doesn't have a real translator, Nuox squawked. Serish wasn't troubled, however. She leaned down and nodded. Yes, please help. The human seemed to understand this and pressed another button on the voice. Manual controlling device. They all looked at each other for a moment then. The little thing couldn't be serious, could it? Well, it figured out most of its own ship. It figured out how to move its own ship around the field, Gashmek. It figured out how to move its own ship around the field, Gashmek said with some hesitation. But that ship's tiny, Nuox complained. Do we have any other choice? Sherish asked. Everyone was quiet for a moment before they looked at Farthas, who sighed and waved for the human to follow him. The small control section was just at the front of the ship, generally only used for testing the engines while in dock. He couldn't remember them ever being used while the ship was actually out in the open, let alone in a place as dangerous as a debris field. The human moved into the seat, putting some small silver and black stick from a pocket. He began to write something on a small window. The manual control seat had, as the others watched from behind. Oh, what's it writing? I think it's religious iconography, Serish said, as the others couldn't make any sense of the curved lines being drawn, or the straight lines in the middle. Are those navigational trajectories? Gashmek asked before the others simply laughed. Even Suresh wasn't crazy enough to think humans could do that on the fly. Finally, though, the small creature stopped writing on the window and rubbed its hands together. Lost my place. Finally, though, the small creature stopped writing on the window and rubbed its hands together. Then it stretched its arms and shook everything out, and grabbed the controls. When the ship started to move forward, everyone couldn't help but squawk and grab onto consoles and strap themselves in. This is madness! It's going to drive us straight into the debris! Nuox cried. I think those really were navigational trajectories, Gusmek said. By the Saviour, I hope you're right. Brathas was gripping his chair as he watched debris fly closer towards him. But every time they looked ready to hit, the human would use the controls and send the ship on a new course. It was using the navigational thrusters constantly, spinning the ship this way and that, before angling and firing off in another path that somehow didn't have debris in it. If anything, the human was making better time through the field than their navigational computer had, just with more terrifying speed than the computer would use. How is it doing this? How is it doing this? How is it doing this? Gashmek was gasping out in between terrified squawks as 100 different times. as 100 different times they were all surely about to die at the hands of this crazy human piloting the ship. But finally, they were out. No one could believe it. The human got out of the chair, nodding at the Brecken, before putting up the device from the earlier and hitting a button.
Farewell, goodbyes, time for making more maps.
Then it waved at them and walked to the airlock, waiting patiently for Frathus to cycle the airlock and let the human back out. On the terminal, he watched it float out of the airlock and then climb in. On the terminal, he watched it float out of the airlock and then climb up the hull before he couldn't see it anymore. A few minutes later, they used a CA chunk. A few minutes later, they heard a CA clunk. A ka-chunk, not CA chunk. A few minutes later, they heard a ka-chunk, and soon after saw the tiny ship. A few minutes later, they heard a A few minutes later, they heard a ka-chunk, and then soon after saw the tiny human ship boosting back into the breeze. Tiny human ship boosting back into the debris field. They were standing around the control center. Each humbled and confused.
I didn't ask for payment,
Orcs finally said. It just asked if we wanted help, Serish said. They glanced around at one another before Fresheth sighed. If that wasn't a savior returned in disguise to lead us to deliverance, then we have to start hiring human pilots. Once we find one that isn't so heavy on the thrusters, that is. He walked to the communications terminal to send out a type beam to the nav beacon they knew was waiting for him. Just as he turned it on, though, Gashmik spoke up. Oh, I don't want to know what human maps look like, and I just want to know what human maps look like, and if they're for sale. End of story.
All right, I'm back.
Background again. That's true.
Yep.
Oh, goody. I get to do it again. From the top. This time with more feeling. Banshee Doom? Yes. Ever since the throat operation, I've been streaming my recovery process. Well, I'm glad that you enjoyed my narration of your story. Anyways, and now I'm going to do the story again. So, Echo. This time with the right background. Greetings, ladies and gents, and welcome to the Sri Tifos, where I take old stories and update them to modern standards. This particular story is called Manual Control, written by Regal. No. Frathus pounded on the console, but it didn't do any good. It wasn't coming back online. He took a heavy sigh and held his head in his hands as he heard the others move up behind him. Is it? Yes, the whole thing is fried. The Dominion mine worked perfectly. It blew the navigation array off completely. He waved a hand out in front of the window. And could see the wreckage drifting free of the ship to join the rest of the debris field. And it probably sent off a signal, so it's just a matter of time before a patrol swoops in and kills us. The others in the command crew looked glum at the news. To make it this far, only to fall at the finish line, so to speak. When they'd found the precious intel, they knew the track back to friendly territory would be perilous, but they'd all volunteered. The debris field was supposed to be calculated risk. The Dominion wouldn't keep it well patrolled for fear of damaging their own ships, but they hadn't expected the mine. What do we do? Try board thread. What do we do? Try a broad spectrum transmission? Gersmic answered. And let the Dominion know what we found, Frathus growled.
What if we just try barreling through the rest of the field?
Orcs thought aloud. but everyone's silence made it clear that that wouldn't work. For some reason, Suresh was now looking out the window, probably observing the wreckage. "I think there's a ship out there," she said, and Gershmek quickly ran to his console as he looked it over. "You're mistaken. I don't have anything on sensors. No nav signals or autopilot pings." He looked over as she pointed out the side window. But look, Brathers sighed and moved over to push her out the way. "Clearly you're mistaken." "Clearly you're mistaken." He looked down through the debris cloud and was about to confirm that she was mistaken. But instead he squawked in surprise and pointed. There's something out there. It's moving around. It's getting closer." Now the rest of the crew rushed over, crowding around as they tried to peer out through the window. "How?" Gershmek exclaimed. "We've got excellent sensors. Is it some new stealth ship that can disguise its navigation signals?"
Nuok snorted and flapped his throat pockets in derision. "It's just a human ship. Those primitives couldn't possibly have anything like that. They only discovered FTL half a generation ago."
"True, but they're neutral. They might help us," Suresh exclaimed, always so full of hope. "Oh, it's probably hit a mine as well," Frathis muttered. "Why else would we not read their sense? Why else can we not get a read on their sense? Well, why else can we not get a read on our... Why else can we not get a read on their sensors?" "Well then, how's it moving?" Suresh asked, and everyone was quiet. They watched the ship get closer. Frathis figured it must be kilometers away based on how small it was. Then the proximity alarm when the ship turned on, and he jumped in surprise. It wasn't far away, it was tiny. How did humans make a ship this small? How did humans make a ship that small without artificial gravity or biofarm pods? They watched it edge closer, tiny white puffs of something nudging the ship bit by bit towards them. Finally, it was above their ship, and they heard a clang as it stuck to their hull.
"What's going on? Why didn't it go to the docking arm?" Nuox asked.
I don't know. Maybe it doesn't have one?"
Gershmek shrugged. "Doesn't have one? How do they get between the ships then?" Nuox demanded.
They waited, and then all jumped as they heard something clang on the ship. It kept clanging until Suresh figured it out. "It's outside the airlock, in some sort of suit."
Nuox shoved her out of the way as he looked at the terminal. "What sort of barbarian ventures into the void wearing only a pressure suit? Madness!"
"Madness or not, it's trying to get in," Frathis said. "Let it in." But the docking ring isn't engaged. How do we open it manually?" Gershmek asked, and everyone looked confused. They'd never had to engage the controls on their own. Frathis sighed and stepped up to the terminal to make the airlock go through the various phases to let the small creature into the ship. After the airlock cycled, the crew crowded around the inside door, watching it open before the human stepped inside. The human was wearing a blue pressure suit that looked like something they'd see in a museum. No Brecken had used something like that in centuries at least. It was a full head shorter than even Serish, and it seemed frail and dainty by comparison to the rest of them. "Are you here to help?" Serish asked.
I bet it's a trap," Nuox claimed. Which was crazy.
"How do you navigate without a computer?" Gershmek asked. The human stepped back, seemingly overwhelmed by talking before holding up a hand, indicating that they wait. Then it held up some kind of strange device.
"What's it doing?"
Nuox wondered. Then the human pressed a button on the device, and they heard a small, grainy voice speaking in terrible Brecken.
"Welcome's greetings. I am Person Human. I love making maps."
After that played, the human hit another button.
"Do you need help?" Oh, by the Saviour, it doesn't have a real communicator,"
Nuox squawked. Serish wasn't troubled, however. She leaned down and nodded. "Yes, please help." The human seemed to understand this and pressed another button on the device.
"Manual controlling device."
They all looked at each other for a moment then. The little thing couldn't be serious, could it? "Well, it did figure out how to move its own ship around the field," Gusmek said with some hesitance.
"But that ship is tiny," Nuox complained.
"Do we have any other choice?" Serish asked. Everyone was quiet for a moment before they looked to the Farths. before they looked to Farthus, who sighed and waved for the human to follow him. The small control section was just at the front of the ship, generally only used for testing the engines while in dock. He couldn't remember them ever being used while the ship was actually out in the open, let alone in a place as dangerous as the debris field. The human moved into the seat, putting some kind... The human moved into a seat, pulling out some small silver-black thing from a pocket, and he began to write something on the small window the manual control seat had, as the others watched from behind. What is you writing? I think it's religious iconography, Serish said, as the others couldn't make any sense out of the curved lines being drawn, or the straight ones in the middle. Those navigational trajectories, Gashmek asked before the others simply laughed. Even Serish wasn't crazy enough to think humans could do that on the fly. Finally, though, the small creature stopped writing on the window and rubbed its hands together. Then it stretched its arms and shook everything out. It grabbed the control. When the ship started moving forward, everyone couldn't help but squawk and grab onto the consoles and strap themselves in. This is madness! Oh, it's going to drive us straight into the debris! Orcs cried. I think those really were navigational trajectories, Gashmek said. By the Saviour, I hope you're right. Frathus was gripping his chair as he watched the debris fly closer towards him. But every time they looked ready to hit, the human would use the controls to send the ship on a new course. It was using the navigational thrusters constantly, spinning the ship this way and that, before angling and firing off in another path that somehow didn't have debris in it. If anything, the human was making better time through the field than their navigational computer had, just with far more terrifying speed than the computer would use. How is it doing this? How is it doing this? Gashmek was gasping out in between breaths. Gashmek was gasping out between terrified squawks, as 100 different times they were all surely about to die at the hands of this crazy human piloting their ship. But finally, they were out. No one could believe it. The human got out of the chair, nodding at the bracken, before pulling out the device from earlier and hitting a button. Farewell, goodbyes. Time for making more maps. Then it waved at them and walked to the airlock, waiting patiently for Farthus to cycle the airlock and let the human back out. On the terminal, he watched it float out of the airlock and then climb up the hull before he couldn't see it anymore. A few minutes later, they heard a ka-chunk, and soon after, the tiny human ship boosting back into the debris field. They were standing around the control center, each humbled and confused. I didn't ask for payment, Orcs finally said. It just asked if we wanted help, Serish said. They glanced around at one another. Farthus sighed. If that wasn't the Saviour returned in disguise to lead us to this deliverance. If that wasn't the Saviour returned in disguise to lead us into deliverance, then we have to start hiring human pilots. Once we find one that isn't so heavy on the thrusters, that is. He walked to the communication terminal to send out a tight beam to the nav beacon they knew was waiting for him. Just as he turned it on, though, Gashmek spoke up. I just want to know what human maps look like, and if they're all for sale. End of story. All right, second time, but done. Philip, as soon as my voice is recovered, I will return to the series channel. But we're not there yet. And Alpha Noob 79, good day, good morning, good afternoon, evening, whatever it may be for you. Hope you're having a fantastic day. This is pretty short. Let's go back to... Yeah, YouTube does weird things. Especially their streaming setup. As you can hear, the voice is knackered. Oop, that's not what I wanted.
But it is all good. Alright, close that. And then we can generate some backgrounds. And done. Yeah. Time is upon us. Hold on. Time to drink something, I think. Ooh, that's not what I wanted. That one. That one. And that one. We're almost at 40 viewers. It's awesome. We might have 40 viewers if you include Twitter. Which fish background? The actual fish? Or the game fish? I'm guessing it's going to be the actual fish. So 18 months ago, I figured out that a human face would probably be the best direction for the channel because of AI and policy changes in YouTube. That's why you get to enjoy this face instead of some fishies. It's basically the reason. And the reason why I use the fish is because technically scrolling text on a narration is against the TOS of YouTube. So I needed a random background. Can't get more random than a fish tank. But that didn't last long because, you know, decisions had to be made. I had to prove that I was more human than AI. The coming AI apocalypse. So that's why you get to enjoy this. Oh, let's take that off. That's blurry. You know your glasses are a little bit blurry when your eyes get blurry when you put them on. Okay, what am I doing? Oh, generating backgrounds. That's what I was doing. Can't even remember when I started showing my face. It was last year. Last year, January, February, somewhere around there. Been a year, I think. My grasp on time is very loose. The joys of working 6 days a week? I have absolutely no idea, Coyote. I thought I would have been recovered already, but I'm still not there. So I'd say I'm probably at 75% back to normal. This last 25% is proving to be quite difficult to overcome. Yes, the green screen effect on the can is funny. And the straw. My green straw. That's also funny. So, my voice seems to do different things than before, so I still need to learn the new voice. Learn the limits. But such is life. Can't really do anything about it. Just keep on keeping on. Keep on doing my recovery exercises. And then hopefully I'll get back to full stamina soon. Okay. That's fair enough, Peanut. Well, I mean, the range is there. I've got more range now than I did before the operation. It's just the stamina that's lacking at the moment. I mean, even now, so it's 3 hours, 10 minutes. I used to be able to probably squeeze out another story before the operation, maybe even 2. But right now I can tell my voice is flat, which is not great. And what are we going to do? We're going to open up Photoshop. And then we're going to generate some thumbnails. Imagine female dwarf. Lawyer. In the future. Good morning, James. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, I mean, recovery always takes a lot out of you. Takes a lot longer than you'd expect. Well, I've been talking for a living for 5 years straight. So, I've narrated over 2,000 hours of content on YouTube. So I haven't basically started narrating 5 years ago, and I haven't shut up since. Which could explain why my voice isn't doing so great. And also narration is different than just talking. Talking is one thing. Narration is very difficult on the voice. Humans are space dwarves? Question mark. Green. Turn that slightly like that. Make that yellow. Should stick out. Yep. Oh, yeah. Cheers, Morris. I hope you have a great one. Let's move to there so people can see what I'm doing. Okay. I swear I'm a professional. The spark. Cool. So this one will be I'm not sure, James. Wish I could help. Okay. Smaller. Add that over there. Move that over there. Flip it around. Merge. Right. Smoothing tool. Well, smudging tool. Blue, lighter blue, nope, let's undo that and export. Alright, next one is going to be complicated. Well, not complicated. It's a difficult concept to show in a thumbnail. Cheers, Kevin. I hope you have a good night. And hopefully we'll see you tomorrow. I hope you're having a fantastic day, Leopard. Thank you for popping past. It is very much appreciated. Yes, yes, I know you're unhappy. Okay. And is all the thumbnails done? We can close that. Bring this over here. Right, 3 hours, 20 minutes. It's been awesome. Got things done. I think we've reached a record of 8 viewers on Twitch, which is awesome. We get into that top 10. We're in the top 1%, baby. Just a little bit of a step to being a successful streamer. If we could just get past that 10, I'm sure we can. And then 35 of you on YouTube. So we definitely passed 40 overall. It's very much appreciated. Thank you all for spending your time with me. Hopefully, I've been entertaining, even though I had to repeat a story. But, you know, this is the glory of doing it live. Mistakes happen. Yes, I'll be streaming again tomorrow. Same time, same place. 10 a.m. GMT +2. Yeah, can't think of anything else to say. So I hope you all have a fantastic day. And again, thank you for joining me.